All right, the Washington Commanders have a couple injuries that we have to talk about, and they're not good, but I'm going to give you some good news on the other side of that. Jayden Daniels seems to have escaped with just a grade 1 PCL injury. We're going to talk about that and what he needs to avoid that getting to a grade 2 and what it looks like the Commanders are going to do. But there's good news in this too. And this is a team that's built for this. Dietrich Wise also was injured, so we're going to talk about what the Commanders can do along the defensive line. Dan Quinn had some things to say about that as well. So we're going to get into all of that stuff and more. Before that, how concerned are you about this injury? I just want to know, like, what are your thoughts on it? Like, are your thoughts terrified? We're nothing without Jayden Daniels. Are your thoughts, you know what, we can kind of hold the ship and we can steer it until we get gas back in the engines and we'll be fine. Marcus Mariota's good. Like, what are your thoughts there? And what are your thoughts on losing a guy like Dietrich Wise? I have some very, very pointed thoughts myself. So anyways, with all of that being said, let's kind of jump into a couple of these things. Let's first talk about Jayden Daniels. I've been doing research on this, and if you look, there's doctors all over the place, Twitter doctors, any kind of doctors, but there's a big difference with a PCL grade 1, 2, and 3. And right now, it seems like Jayden Daniels has a grade 1. The fact that he was able to play the remainder of the game leans to grade 1. The fact that they're saying he's questionable, possibly going to play next week, definitely leads to grade 1. The best way to describe this PCL strain is that it's a ligament that kind of holds the knee and the stability together, right? And so when you have a sprain, you're walking on it, you don't feel stable. The best way I heard is if you're on a 4-legged bar stool, one leg's missing, you kind of feel like it's all wonky. When you get to that grade 2, all of a sudden now you're just balancing on one leg. PCL strains and sprains have really led to different things. There's some players who don't miss time because of it. There's some players who miss up to about 6 weeks with it, if I can be honest. That is why I think it just makes absolute sense for the Commanders, multiple reasons, for the Commanders to just sit Jayden Daniels this week and let Marcus Mariota play. Let Marcus Mariota play. And the reason I would say let Marcus Mariota play is this is why you signed him. All right? That's why you're paying him $8 million to be a really good backup. You're paying him to run the same offense that Jayden Daniels is. This is a luxury most NFL teams don't have. They have a quarterback that plays one way as their starting quarterback and then a backup quarterback that rarely can run the offense in the same manner, especially when you have a mobile quarterback. It is not easy. And I think that drop for a game or two to Marcus Mariota, with the talent that this team has and how well you play, you can absolutely get away with it. Last year, when Daniels exited the game against the Panthers, he had a rib injury. All right. Marcus Mariota led the Commanders to a 40-7 victory. He was 18 of 23 for 205 yards. All right. He also spent time playing in the finale and the second half against the Dallas Cowboys. He's not a bad player. He's a guy that has posted while playing with the Titans a 27-28 record as a starter. Not necessarily great football teams. All right. Same with the Falcons. And now he's here and he's surrounded with a good team. Now, other things to consider. You are playing against the Raiders next week. Unless I'm mistaken, you're playing against the Raiders. What are we talking about? Why are we even having this conversation, right? The Raiders are not a good football team. They got exposed when they had to play when they played a not good, not yet ready Patriots team. They look good, right? Geno Smith looked good. And then they played the Chargers on Monday Night Football. And they were, I don't know how to say this, kind of exposed. And I'm not saying the Raiders don't have a good future. I'm not saying they're not a well-coached team. I'm just very simply saying that against good teams, they might not quite be ready yet. All right? They did not run the ball well. They never were able to run the ball much. Geno Smith just slung it around the field. That ended in 43 attempts for 180 yards and no touchdowns, 3 picks. That's not great. So I think there's a world where you can get away with this 100%. 100%. Now, let's talk about the defensive line and where I expect that to be. All right. Dan Quinn was asked on Monday, okay, so yesterday, what they're going to do to fill in the hole that was left to Dietrich Wise, who has a season-ending injury against Green Bay. He didn't hesitate. He said this. He said, yeah, we'll have to adjust for sure. The size and strength that Dietrich plays with on the edge, that's a real thing, so we will mix it around. Okay, the size and strength that Dietrich plays with on the edge. All right, here is, I did the wrong one. There you go. Here is all your defensive linemen, according to PFF. All right, Dietrich Wise is down here. All right, he hasn't been grading out great this year, and quite frankly, he hasn't graded out any year. This is a guy who has been experienced as a football player, right? He's been in the league since 2017 and has always put together a fringe. I want to be clear on this. He has only had 2 NFL seasons where he graded out as a starter at the edge position. As a starter. Most of the time, he's grading out as a middle-of-the-road or even back-end rotation player. Now, a lot of people are freaking out that you signed Dietrich Wise and you brought him in to be this big-bodied run stopper, can sometimes get pressure on the quarterback guy, and like we're acting like you paid him all this money. You didn't, right? You didn't. In fact, he's not being paid that much. He's barely making $3 million this year. That is not a large amount of money in the NFL. That's more like vet minimum status, okay? That's what that is. Dietrich Wise right now is making $3.16 million. There are other linemen that can get the job done, and one of them that I want to pay attention to in this video is Jalen Holmes. All right? Jalen Holmes, if you look at him, is a guy that almost runs the exact same size. Dietrich Wise is 6'5", 280. Jalen Holmes, 6'5", 283. Jalen Holmes is a couple years younger. He's out of Ohio State. All right? And no, he hasn't had as much run. But when he does play more snaps, believe it or not, he grades out almost similarly. All right? He was drafted in a similar position. I think, we see it with quarterbacks more and more around the league where they have good draft value. They bounce around, and then all of a sudden they get their shot and they're with the right team, and all of a sudden they're playing well, right? I think you're seeing it with Marcus Mariota finding his perfect backup position with the Commanders. You're seeing it with Daniel Jones over with the Colts. You're seeing it in a lot of different places. You've seen it with Sam Darnold with the Vikings. He had a good week last week with the Seahawks. You saw the resurgence of Geno Smith. Like all these different things. This happens on the defensive side of the ball as well, everybody. And I think that this is a position where there's not there's players who can rush the passer. Dorrance Armstrong is going to be the opposite edge. There's no doubt about that. And then, yes, you have smaller edges. Expect to see Jalen Holmes out there, and I'm just going to throw this out there. Jerzon Newton, there's a world where he can play that 5-tech, all right? Not all the way on the outside maybe, but some of that 5-tech, you can hide one smaller defensive end. You can put him on the weak side. Like, these aren't the end of the world problems, all right? Let's not act like it is. It's understanding to be worried about Jayden Daniels. He misses a week. Let's hope he can get a win that week and kind of go from there. All right, thanks for watching. Still good news. For all your Commanders content, check out this channel, and we'll see you on the next one.